This is a good article for my travel channel. 12 Asian countries ranked in top 25 deadliest popular travel destinations. Let's see here. In a list of the 50 most visited countries in the world, ranked for their safety, 12 of the 25 deadliest destinations were Asian countries. Despite dominating various guides and lists of must-visit travel destinations, Asian countries did not fare well in a recent safety index published by insurance comparison website, the Swiftest. The rankings was determined through 7 factors: homicide rate, road traffic death rate, poisoning death rate, unsanitary conditions, mortality rate, life years lost due to communicable diseases, life years lost due to injury, and natural disaster risk. From most to least deadly, India, Cambodia, the Philippines, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, Indonesia, China, Thailand, Iran, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Malaysia, and the United Arab Emirates all made the top 25 deadliest countries, while South Korea, Japan, Israel, and Singapore were in the bottom 25. South Africa was ranked the deadliest country for tourists. The list ranked India the second deadliest country and Singapore the safest. Of the 50 most visited countries, India had the highest percentage of deaths from poor hygiene conditions, 18.6 per 100,000 people. The country's extreme wealth gap was also listed as a contributing factor, with an estimated over 1.3 billion people living in poverty. Wow, an estimated over 1.3 billion people living in poverty and poor living conditions. That's a lot of people. Singapore was ranked as the safest country with low homicide and road death rates and low natural disaster risk. The Swiftest attributes Singapore's safety to high penalties for crime in the country and extensive police surveillance. Well, let me just stop there and say that one thing about Singapore is that they have a lot of public housing that people live in. Not like in the U.S. where many people own their houses or so forth. So they aim not to have like homelessness like how in the U.S. you see people sleeping in the street, but Singapore is different. So many people live in what's called public housing, right? And they also bring in a lot of people to work, like domestic jobs and so forth. So my point is, if you live in a country where you can bring people in to do domestic work and all this stuff, and people have a chance to live, have a roof over their head, then you're going to have less crime. You see? You put those together. Why would you want to be committing crimes if you have a place to live at, you have a job you can go to, So that also helps to explain Singapore. I don't think it's just the penalties, like this article is saying, attributes Singapore's safety to high penalties. It gives the impression that, if it weren't up for those high penalties, people won't be committing crime. That's not really true. In the United States, you got people committing murder in states like Texas with the death penalty. Like where that guy killed that 7-year-old girl, the FedEx worker. I'm sure he knows there's a death penalty in the state of Texas. So that doesn't stop people from committing crime. It's the conditions that they live in that will say, what are the chances somebody's going to commit crime if they have a job and they have a roof over their head. And I think that's where Singapore stands out from many other countries. Of those with the highest homicide death rates, the Philippines and India were listed in the top 10. Asian countries were dominated the list of countries with the most road traffic deaths, with Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Iran, Cambodia, China taking 7 to 10 spots. I would say yes. When I was leaving Vietnam, crossing over, I saw right away, and while on the bus, I saw a traffic accident, a motorcycle on the street. Somebody got killed. We had just crossed the border, so it was like, welcome to Cambodia. Cambodia got some crazy stuff that goes on. Also, another thing I saw in Cambodia is that people would pass what they may call overtake, and they would be coming into you, right? You're on a two-lane highway or whatever, and you're driving, and somebody is passing the other guy, and he's out. And what happens is that you have to actually pull over on the shoulder because this guy is coming toward you. He's not going to stop. He's not going to go back behind the vehicle. It's like he keeps coming, and I saw that with my own eyes. So this is the kind of driving. In Vietnam, this is what I saw also in Vietnam, whereby you're driving on a highway. Now keep in mind here, you're on a highway and a traffic is coming, like a ramp is coming up toward your vehicle, right? So you head in, let's say you head in like east, and the traffic comes up on a ramp, and then he comes up and then he has to like go over to the other side to head west. In the U.S., you never see something like that, They would have like a dedicated ramp where they'll be on the other side of the highway. So when they enter, they'll be heading westbound. They don't be heading into you, but I've seen that in Vietnam. So that right there is a recipe for disaster. In Thailand, they got some crazy driving in Thailand. They got lots of like motorcycle deaths and so forth. A doctor went out at lunchtime in Bangkok. She was crossing the zebra crossing where they have those markings and so forth, no traffic light. A policeman who was off duty in his own motorcycle, he went right through and killed her. They were looking for the doctor. Nope. Doctor didn't come back, and not only that, he had removed her ID and so forth. Yeah. So they didn't know who this person was until much later they found out the doctor got killed. So you got a lot of crazy stuff that goes on over there. China. I've never been in the mainland China, but I've been in Hong Kong, where they drive on the left-hand side. China, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, and Saudi Arabia were listed as having the highest poisoning death rates, although poison incidents in China are suspected of being underreported. Well, China has, some of the food that they have there. They were in the news with melamine and so forth. It's like adulterated food, and people are doing it for money too. So some of the pets here in the U.S. were being killed. They were putting stuff in there that don't belong in there. Even some of the honey that you see, if it says made in China, they put other stuff in there. That's not real honey. I've had people in Asia ask me, I think like Vietnam, yeah, can you bring me some honey when I went to Vietnam? Because the honey they get in there is adulterated, especially coming out of China. It's not real honey. Whereas, like bumblebee honey here in the United States is real honey. So you bring that to somebody in Vietnam, they'll very thank you very much to get real honey than adulterated honey. So six Asian countries were listed as having the highest percentage of deaths from poor hygiene conditions, including India, Indonesia, Cambodia, the Philippines, Thailand, and South Korea. So these are things you keep in mind when traveling. And it's also good to keep some pills on hand, just in case you come down with diarrhea. Yeah, that happens with the food or the water.